Okay, more from this person, Crocheteria. And she's aiming her comment at this guy, Black Reality, or Realidade Black. Now, tell me here, are your friends social climbers or good women who study, fought to position themselves socially and want someone who has done the same? I know a lot of Black men who, when they socially ascend, they start looking for only white women to show off. Likewise, I know a lot of women who gave a chance to men without half of their education and are there, some going through a lot to deal with backwards thoughts, and others even living well. In my time, believe me, I am 46 years old. They didn't have quotas or affirmative action. But now every Black person has the chance to be what every enlightened and conscious woman, man seeks. So instead of focusing on rejection for not fitting in, grow up and maintain an Afro-centric relationship, because if not, in 2 or 3 generations, the colonizer will be able to extinguish from the map what he considers ugly. Another very great comment here. This question of, is it wrong for a Black woman to seek a partner who has the same education and social ascension as she does? The question of, he's saying being 46 years old back in the day. Now, you know, quotas is a big thing in Brazil. A lot of Black people in Brazil have managed to get through the university through affirmative action policies. And he's saying, you know, years ago, people didn't have these quotas. They only started like in the early 2000s. So let me see. He's saying we should, instead of, you know, focusing on rejection or the ability to fit in or not, we should grow up and maintain. You know, there's been this question of what's called amor afrocentrado in Brazil, with they, you know, Afrocentric relationships, because he sees it also. He's seeing that if more and more Black and brown Brazilians don't start adapting to and getting into Afrocentric relationships, this theory, this dream of whitening the population is going to proceed and extinguish the Black population, because so many people are willing participants in this whitening process. Excellent point here. Let me see. Black Reality. Okay, so Francelino is commenting to Black Reality, say, no, you're completely mistaken with this already beaten up discourse that Black women are alone because they want to be or because they are too demanding. The point that I brought here to the girl in no way resembles this discourse, simply because he's not real and only Black men believe that. Simply because it's not real and only Black men believe that, conveniently, of course. So this one is pushing back on somebody who's saying that, well, Black women are alone because they want to be alone. And she's saying, no, Black women are consistently passed over. So we have to get with men who want to get with us. So we see a, you know, a back and forth going on here. Okay, so Realidade Black responds to Francelino. Discourse beaten up by whom? The discourse of you all is always far from practice. Reality has no adherence to the theory that you preach. You are single because the Black men you seek are not prominent Blacks in any way. Just go anywhere that is putting on a type of Black event and watch how the game of flirting between men and women works. So he's responding back like, no, what you're saying is not actually true. And, you know, this is what he's saying. You know, the theory that you preach is just not true. You are single because the Black men you seek are not prominent Blacks in any way. Again, well, where have we heard this before? Now, this is Black Brazil talking, and he's saying, like, look, you women are alone because you're not willing to date the average man. You're looking for the prominent Black man, right? Where have you heard this? Silva says to Francelino, your analysis is perfect because my cousin says she got with a white man because he was the only one who agreed to marry her. But we know it's a lie since she had other Black suitors. This current husband beats her and puts her through every possible humiliation, and yet she doesn't separate from him. Dig that. This is a comment that's going to, it speaks volumes, because, you know, the video that I have coming up in the future, I hope I get to it this week. You know, a Black clinical psychologist, you know, Black Brazilian woman, is saying that in Brazil, Black Brazilians tend to put up with more stress and more difficulty if their partner is white. Whereas if they have a Black partner, they're willing to, you know, throw in the towel on a relationship because that person is Black. Have to talk about that again soon, but this is what this person is talking about here. So next person, Nikki. First, let's separate this discussion. You know what? I think I already read that comment. Costa 3 says, certainly. Our enemy is the other, actually, speaking on white Brazilians, and he is not in my bed and will not even be in the family I construct. So this person is clearly rejecting the idea of embranquecimento and just pursuing a white partner because this is what social engineering has told the Black population. Nikki, my feminism is based on violas, suelis, y chimamandas. These are all, this is Viola Davis. This is a really popular, longtime philosopher and feminist in Brazil. Her name is Sueli Carneiro. And this is the Nigerian woman, Chimamanda. You don't know me. And sometimes you look like a conservative or you sound like a conservative white person who argues. I repeat, better identify your enemies. We are fighting on the same side. This is something else that we see. Black people accusing the other person of thinking like a white person or saying things that they would expect from a white person. Okay, so this person, Costa, old Tom Costa, number 3, whatever. At Nikki, you opening your mouth sounds like a white left-wing feminist who plays the anti-racist. I don't see anything in you about the women you're talking about. Nothing. So we see a back and forth going on here. Okay, so who's the one that sounds like, I don't know, a white leftist or a white conservative? The accusations are going back and forth. Now, this is Afro-Estima. This is actually Moro Barasho who weighs in on the conversation. This content that he posted is about the influence of the family. The content is not about nuptiality or state of being married. I addressed the topic of how families encourage Black people to seek white partners. And as I said, as far as I know, there is nothing to show and confirm that white is the most available option for Black women. The IBGE data, which is Brazil's government data of geography and statistics, the IBGE data is data on the nuptiality of the Black population, and it doesn't speak on this phenomenon that you cited. I find it reckless to say that all Black women who are married to whites today only did so because they were passed over by Black men. You can't say that as if it were a rule. Obviously, there must be such cases, but certainly they don't apply to all women. So what he's saying here is that he doesn't buy it either. He doesn't believe that all Black women who are married to white men do so because they've been passed over by white men or passed over by Black men. He's saying, this is something that, others have pointed out. Like, how do you believe that Black men were socially engineered into preferring white partners, but you don't seem to think that Black women are under that same influence? So likewise, it's not right to say that Black men only get with white people when they become rich. These are generalizations that I don't risk making. And I can definitely vouch for what he's saying, because I've seen all social classes of that. Most Black men in Brazil are not of the middle class. So you go to shopping malls, Sao Paulo or wherever, and you'll find lower class, lower middle class or whatever. You'll find all types of Black men with white women. And a lot of people, I had to get beyond just pointing a finger at soccer players and musicians and actors, because I see this in the lower classes as well. So that was a comment by Moro Barasho. He's the person who is behind the Afro-Estima Instagram page. Next comment. Nikki is pointing this back to Black reality, the profile of Realidade Black. I don't see a problem with any independent educated and professionally positioned Black women wanting their partner to also be this. Everyone accepts this requirement of any white female. Why, if the Black woman wants her partner to be like this, do you think she's wanting too much? I think you can start your reflection there. Your discourse completely attributes to the Black woman her own loneliness, basically saying, you're accusing the Black woman of being alone because she's alone, or they're attributing her solitude or singleness, to her own fault. Good conversation is going on here. So Nikki is speaking to Realidade Black again. Do you really think that you can ignore the whole ideal of the princess to marry constructed upon white women in Brazil, which makes them have a field of effective choice, while the black woman scenario is completely different? So listen to what she's saying. Basically, she's talking about the white woman princess in Brazil. She's presented as having just options of getting married from the time she's born. Whereas with black women, that scenario does not apply. It's like black women spend the longest time single, and it's most difficult for, the statistics show this, it's more difficult for black women to secure long-term relationships or get to the altar to get married than white women or even brown women. Reality responds at Nikki, seriously, do you think you can ignore the whole ideal of the prince man constructed upon the white man in Brazil, which makes the black man the marginalized one in every way? Good pushback, because the point is, in Brazil, neither the black man nor the black woman is thought of as that Prince Charming or, the beautiful, charming blonde princess. Both are marginalized in how people see them as choices as possible long-term partners. It goes both ways, and I like that point that he made. Miriam weighs in and says, this makes a lot of sense. In addition to all these phrases, like the phrases that we heard where, grandmothers telling their families, like, look, you need to marry white and clean the uterus. Black people are not worthwhile, or whatever the comment was. So she's saying, in addition to all those type of phrases, my sisters and I carry with us the weight of our parents' failed marriage, a black couple who lived a violent, difficult, and sickening relationship for all of us. Even after they were separated, this encounter weighed heavily on everyone. Sick mother, surviving daughters. Then dad separated and remarried another black woman. Then me and my sisters hooked up with white men. Oh man, a lot going on there. Intriguing, it says the father remarried another black woman, because you hear so many stories of black Brazilian men leaving the family for whatever reason and, marrying a white woman and creating a whole nother family. So a lot of stress going on here. There have been people who have been talking about historically the oppression of the black family in Brazil has had these effects decades later that continue to repeat. And it seems that some black people will opt out of black families and black relationships because it seems like the white side of the fence is healthier, or it's the grass is always greener on the other side, if you will. Hear a lot of stories like that. This person, Pris, is commenting to this person, Midian, who just made the comment. Look, I'm not questioning your life experiences. This concerns only you. But I'm so intrigued by this issue you brought up. From what you wrote here, your parents had a bad Afro-centric relationship. Do you think that this was a factor that influenced you so that you and your sister chose to live different experiences from your mother? I am intrigued mainly because white children, even experiencing toxic relationships of their white parents, they don't seek another racial group to relate to for this reason. It seems that the black individual is collective, like the experience with the black man, black woman defines that of all other black men and women. So it's like, what are we saying here? You take a bad experience with a black partner and apply that to other black people as if that's the rule, but you don't do that same thing with white people. That's one of the things that they're saying here. And also, this person here is noting that, white children can notice toxic relationships between their parents, but then that doesn't cause them to go off to marry somebody outside of their racial group. So again, what the mentality, the emotional scars of oppression and slavery, and what it's done to the psyche of black families here. Okay, Median comes back. You see, as I'm pointing out at the beginning of my comment, it's a set of factors. My parents' experiences alone says nothing, but it has together with it a racist system that influences taste, values, and choices. Again, going into what an author defined as the dictatorship of whiteness that goes on in Brazil and its effects on the psychology, the psyche of the black family or the black individual in Brazil. Oliveira 86 says, I've never heard that directly, but my grandmother had her favorite daughter who was the lightest and her favorite granddaughter who was also the lightest. I don't know if this influenced me, but I have been with a white person for 23 years, but I was very happy because when he started dating me, he always complimented my hair and my braids long before there was a hair transition. Now, what he's talking about, what she's talking about is that somewhere, I don't know, between 2008 and 2013, masses, tens of thousands of Black women started letting their hair go natural, because in Brazil, it's always been considered, you can't walk around with your hair looking like that if you had, what they call cabelo crespo, meaning kinky curly hair. And so a lot of Black women would just shave their heads and start all over and let their hair grow back naturally. So that's what she's talking about. She was wearing apparently braids and her natural hair before it became popular for Afro-Brazilian women to, go into this hair transition to accept their natural hair. She continues, my friends who dated Black men always had mega hair, cabelo liso. What she's saying is, the super straight weaves that a lot of, particularly like Black American women wear, is pretty common in Brazil as well. People, because of the mixture, Black women, or if you want to say mulattas, whatever, they're expected to have that type of hair. So when you don't have it, they go to what they call mega hair, which are, basically the hair weaves. She says, which I never did because I never had that demanded of me. So she's saying she had a white partner who accepted her for how she was. She's Palmares, or ex Palmares, says, it's time for you to bring the debate about the whitening of Black families. True, something I've been talking about for a minute. Not long ago, I was talking to a friend saying that this is still very much present. So much so that in one of the episodes of the Casamento às Cegas, which means it's Brazil's edition of the reality show Love is Blind. And he speaks on the character. Tamara will talk to her family first before introducing the guy, Alisson. Then the general family gets suspicious with this engagement of hers. Both father and mother didn't like it. But when Alisson appears, they change their mind, saying that the guy is handsome. Her mother verbalizes that she would have beautiful grandchildren. At the time, it was effing agony with them reproducing the culture of whitening. So what he's talking about here, he's just talking about how the Black family of Tamara, the Black woman in these photos, they were hesitant about what type of man she was bringing home in this type of relationship until they saw this handsome white man show up. And it was like, oh, he's a handsome guy. He's, you guys are going to make some beautiful grandkids. That's something that you hear from a lot of Black people in the United States. Like, it's automatically assumed that if a Black person and a white person get together, they're going to produce beautiful children, again. So that's what he saw. This is how I'm seeing it. Like, okay, would they have said the same thing if she had brought home a Black guy? That's always the question. Okay. Next, Christiani. Let's see. When I started dating, I repeated without realizing the horror that was, I'm already Black enough. This is something that you hear from time to time. Black people being told that, look, you're already Black enough, so why would you go out and get a Black partner? A very common phrase that you hear. My dark-skinned grandmother, which is what she's saying, preta retinta, dark-skinned grandmother, loved her lighter-skinned grandchildren while we who were darker were left aside. Wanted to feel a little bit of her love and saw in an interracial relationship a hint of hope. Wow. So this person is saying that the lack of love they felt from their grandmother who preferred her lighter skinned grandchildren, they hope that maybe getting into an interracial relationship, that could present some hope for being accepted from their grandmother. So she says, I just didn't count on getting a huge tantrum in her face and that I wouldn't be close to her even after my marriage. And I also didn't calculate that my white husband's family would suffer, that my mixed race daughters would suffer. I didn't calculate a lot of things. If it were today, my choices would be completely different. This is something that I've heard from a number of people who go through this transition of Black identity, when they start seeing how they were social engineered and indoctrinated to prefer whiteness, and they finally are able to recognize that and then start trying to cleanse themselves of these toxic thoughts, right? I've heard, people who say they grew up in Black households that says you need to marry white. They followed that standard. And then one day they woke up and says, man, I've been engineered to prefer whiteness, and had to face the reality of what was going on in their own minds. Let's see, Christiani. I was the first granddaughter and they didn't even care after my cousin, the third granddaughter came, but she was the only white one, and my maternal grandmother loved her and always pushed me to the side. You know, echoes of colorism here. Christiani. I also suffered prejudice from my white husband's family. Again, you know, just because you marry interracially doesn't mean everything is perfectly smooth with, you know, no racist tendencies. And I've talked about that before. Christiani. They are not errors in the calculations, girls. The self-hatred in the elders and in ourselves is the result of the 500 years of colonization, including that of our minds. It was an unfortunate and very successful project among the Black population. Deconstructing this way of thinking requires a process of self-knowledge, patience with oneself, and building self-love. Again, this is something that a lot of Black Brazilians are getting into. Like, we need to analyze why we have these pervasive thoughts in our mind towards the necessity of whitening, this adoration of whiteness, of producing white children. So we have to get into a process of self-knowledge, patience with oneself, and constructing or building self-love. It's something that it still isn't widespread, but this is a thought pattern that's starting to spread within the Black population, understanding how they've been indoctrinated for so long. The next person says, I am the daughter of an interracial couple. My dark-skinned Black mother, a maid, was always very well received and welcome into my father's family, family of white people. My grandmother loved my mother very much and loved us too. In my father's family, my mother was always very admired for her personality and character. I am married to a white man too. For his mother, I am not Black, but morena. And if you know what that means, it's to say, I don't know what the complexion of this person is. She could be brown skinned, she could be light skinned, but this is another thing where people don't want to define somebody as being Black. It's like, you know, you're too beautiful to be Black, so we're going to call you a morena. It's like, you know, looking past videos where I talk about this idea of calling people morenas, saying you're too beautiful to call yourself Black, call yourself a morena. And a morena can span the spectrum of what somebody looks like: a dark-haired white woman, a tan white woman, a person of mixed race, or even a brown-skinned person can be called morena. The point is, for some people, calling somebody Black is still a derogatory term. So yet she yearned to see her granddaughter lighten, our eldest daughter, and was very disappointed when she realized that her granddaughter would also be morena, which could be translated in this point as being a little dark. Her father never made any distinction, always liked me more, and always made it clear how welcome I was, and I always felt very good. There are many, these are just cases, and there are many more cases and cases. P.S. I heard reports in the family about situations of racism coming from my mother-in-law towards other members of the family, like nieces, sister-in-law, etc. And today, my mother-in-law is dating a Black man with a financial situation that's inferior to hers, says that she feels valued and loved as she did not feel before. Anyway, continuing on the topic of Black men's loneliness, does it exist? This is something that a lot of Black men in Brazil have pointed out. Like, Black women have successfully taken over the media, or Black media online, talking about the solidão da mulher negra, the loneliness of Black women. But a lot of people are pushing back, saying this is not just Black women being passed over, it's Black people being passed over by their own. So a lot of Black men have argued, like, look, what about the solidão do homem negro, like the loneliness of the Black man? He's asking here, does it exist? So as we see from the previous comments, there are a lot of Black men of the position that Black women in Brazil are single because they choose not to date the average Black man. You know, they're going after the prominent Black men. Are we saying, you know, the top 5 to 10%? And there's just not enough men of that caliber to go around. I'm sure he said that in this point. So he's asking, is it only the Black woman who's passed over? Really? I have noticed that when the topic of the loneliness of Black women is addressed, it is always linked to some case of a prominent Black man, socially, economically, who was with some white woman. But this Black male profile does not represent even 0.000000000.1% of the general Black male population. So what he's saying here is it's common on the internet to hear Black Brazilian women complaining about this athlete or this musician or this Black actor who, got together with a white woman. But they're looking at prominent black men, whereas they're ignoring the average black man who might be giving them attention. Again, where have we heard this from? This is coming all the way from Brazil, what this guy is talking about. I have never seen anyone talking about the loneliness of the average black man, that poor black man outside of the aesthetic standard, the underemployed, financially broken, with difficulty in completing a higher education, riding public transportation, living with his parents, etc. So this is, I remember some years ago, there was this this meme that was going around. And I think it perfectly exemplified what this guy is talking about in this last paragraph, because it showed on the left side of the picture, a picture of the actor who played Zé Pequeno in the Cidade de Deus, City of God film. And on the right side of him, they showed a picture of Michael B. Jordan. So it was saying black women only want a black man if he looks like Michael B. Jordan. If he looks like the guy playing Zé Pequeno, they just pass him over. So again, black men are pushing back. Do you think this black man, who is the majority, the one of the lower classes who has just difficulties in life, is not the aesthetic standard, unemployed, financially broken? Do you think this is the black man in Brazil who is the majority? Do you think this black man has success with women, regardless of ethnicity? Do you think that the black woman who keeps whining because the prominent black man she wanted is with a white woman notices this ordinary black man in the everyday? Do you think that they would give this ordinary black man a chance? Let's be transparent and less racially genocentric. If this ordinary black man is with a white woman, it does not bother anyone, because socially he has no prominence and prestige and therefore does not stink or smell. The focus is always on the prominent black. Hypocrisy. Anyway, just wondering what you guys thought about this material. Like I said, there's several Instagram pages where these type of conversations are going on. And that's why I wanted to present this today, because, like I said, a lot of the readers, or rather a lot of the followers on my YouTube channel, are asking, what are black men saying about this? So we just got a taste of what some black men are talking about, because this constant going back and forth between black Brazilian men and women is something that's been going on for a number of years. So again, I want to give credit where credit is due. This is coming from the Afro-Estima Instagram page by Moro Baracho. And, like I said, this is the conversation that's going on in Brazil today. As you can see, people made some just brilliant, very thought-provoking comments. A lot of these comments, they fit very much into what I've been talking about for a while. But, here's the proof. There's plenty more where this came from. And just want to give accolades. I want to give some props to the conversation that Moro Baracho is bringing on his Instagram page, because this is a conversation that needs to happen. So with that said, I'm going to end this video here. I hope you guys appreciated this material. Again, if you're a Portuguese reader, go to the Afro-Estima Instagram page. You'll find this article there, and along with a whole lot of other thought-provoking topics and comments. So with that said, I'm going to end the video here. Ask you to like my video, subscribe to the channel if you like this type of material. Share it, get a conversation going. Definitely leave your comments, because I want to know what you thought about this material. Share the video, subscribe to the channel, push the notification button so you get my latest videos. And with that said, I hope to see you guys in my next video.